So for this video, we'll be discussing the Warg Marauder, which in my opinion is one of the best units available to the faction, and unfortunately they are also the most underused. Based on the list I've seen online and forum talks, it's very shocking to see players not using more Marauders, especially in this edition. So I'm going to start by breaking down the stats and special rules of the Marauder. They cost 30 points, which is absolutely amazing. The whole basis of the Marauder, it's an absolute unit. It has a very strong stat line. Being cavalry, it has a 10-inch movement, a fight value of 3, strength 4, and 3 attacks for each additional goblin after the first goblin. So on the charge, you have 4 attacks. And if you do win the fight, that is 8 strength, 4 attacks hitting your enemy. They have a defense of 5, so long as the shield goblin is alive, which is amazing. It does make the warg more tanky, especially when it comes to shooting. In addition, as I mentioned, the warg is a cavalry model. It helps mitigate other opponent cavalry models, which in Moria is an issue, as we have no access to any other cavalry. And the special rules of the Warg Marauders, I think, are phenomenal. The biggest one is Lethal Union. This is the rule that allows the additional attacks for each goblin who did not shoot in the shooting phase. However, it also makes the model cause terror, and you have an additional +1 courage to the model. So if you have drums with a Marauder, your courage is 4, which is huge when it comes to playing against terror causers such as Agmar or Elven characters. And the second special rule is On the Hunt. This is a rule which I use quite often. It allows the goblins to shoot their orc bows, even if the Marauder has moved its full 10-inch distance, or if it's engaged in combat. So I have only shot into combat a few times. I don't typically do that, as I do like having the extra attacks on the charge. But for, I'd say, the first 3 or 4 turns when you are not engaging with the Marauder, although it's 6s to hit, you always have 2 free shots every turn, which is phenomenal. So based off what I just discussed, the Warg Marauder is truly a mini glass cannon. They hit extremely hard, but can't take a swing back. In most of my 300 plus games, the Marauder, if it loses the fight, your opponent will most likely strike the warg. And with strength or defense of 5, most armies are probably going to kill it, thus dismounting all 3 goblins. But the defense 5, as I mentioned earlier, is phenomenal when it comes for shooting, as you are able to tank more bow shots than usual. Now, the biggest part of why I like the Warg Marauders is they have such a high mobility and utility within Moria. Moria has an issue of movement and, I would say, utility pieces, and the Marauder covers a lot. It brings that terror, which is phenomenal. This terror allows the Marauder to put pressure on objective grabbers. In most games, your opponents will put 1 to 2 warriors on an objective in the back zone. The Marauder has the speed and the shooting to either kill the warrior outright from the shooting or charge him, and you don't have to worry about getting counter-charged thanks to having terror. And as I mentioned again, if you do win a fight on the charge with a Marauder with all goblins, you have 8 strength 4 attacks, and most captain models can't survive that many dice. So I guess we'll break down to how I play them. I use the Marauders. I would say having a healthy dose of 3 to 4 in an 800 per army is not bad at all. As I said, they are 30 points, and within Moria, most units are very cheap, so it's very easy to fit these models in each warband. Not only that, having a Marauder followed by a Bat Swarm is a very deadly combo. I mean that is because the Bat Swarm, as you guys know, it does reduce the fight value. Oh, my bad. I guess my phone was having issues. So, with having the Bat Swarm with Marauder, the Bat will reduce the fight value, and the Warg has a fight value of 3. So unless the character you're fighting is fight 6, you will always outfight them. And I mentioned again, with the bat plus Marauder charging, you will kill any captain model, which is awesome, having that little 65 point threat bubble with the bat and the Marauder. I wouldn't get more than 4, solely because although all these amazing stat lines and all the pros I just mentioned, with a defense of 5, if you were to play against an Elven player or a Corsair army or army with a lot of bowfire, it wouldn't be hard to dismount the Warg Marauders. And having, let's say 6 Marauders in an 800 point list, that's 180 points. And if all of them get dismounted in the first 2 turns, it wasn't worth the investment. So I think 3 to 4 is a very healthy number. In some army lists, depending, I could see 2, but I do think 3 adds a lot more pressure and mobility to the army. The only downside of the Marauder, I would say, is the bowfire, of course, is a very, not gimmicky, like I mentioned in my Goblin Archer video, but there's, I would say, a small issue with the wording of it, as it does say the orcs can shoot even if they engage in the fight. Now, if you are engaged, let's say against a orc captain with a Warg Marauder, and you wanted to shoot into the orc captain, I believe there is still an in the way roll, so you could potentially kill your warg. So I guess that's a downside. In addition, the biggest downside of this amazing stat line is having the low fight value. Fight 3 is better than most goblins, but it is still not, it's not going to help a lot against good armies, as most good armies are fight 4 and above. But besides those 2 minor points, I think the Marauders are an amazing unit in Moria. I highly encourage everyone to start playing them and trying them, and they do not disappoint. Last point I forgot to mention was they are great objective grabbers, in the sense, if you really wanted to, you can move up the Warg Marauder and then dismount all 3 goblins. That immediately, you have a body count over the objective. In addition, if you pass the Warg's courage itself, you have 4 bodies rather than 1 body on objective. So in some objective games, if it's towards the mid or late game, I've played it where I've had a few of my Marauders go to the objective and dismount just to swing the objective in my favor for the body count. So guys, that summarizes the Warg Marauder. It wasn't too long, as I feel like this profile is pretty straightforward, and I absolutely love it. Please in the comments below, let me know what you think, how many you run. If you find any more pros and cons, just let me know. But yeah, so that's the Warg Marauder. I believe in the next video, I will be covering the Prowlers or the Black Shields. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. In the comments below, let me know what you thought about it. If you disagree with points or if you agree with them. And let me know how many Marauders you guys typically take. See you next time.